Welcome back to my Helluva Boss reviews. We'll be talking about every single episode, connections to the rest of the show, any other Easter eggs, my own opinions. Sometimes you'll see my Sona, which leads into Season 2, Episode 3, X's and O's. Uploaded March 11, 2023. In it, the IMP gets hired by a mysterious benefactor, which turns out to be Moxxie's dad, who wants him back, just so he can give up his holdings in the company to someone else. Shenanigans ensue.
You know, I checked the scale today, and it said I lost 2 pounds this week.
Oh, they're totally fucking. Millie burst in, knocking over a bust of Blitz. Her mug of herself is all cracked up because of last episode. She's upset for running into an ex. She knocked over a filing cabinet full of Blitz's porn he printed out for reasons. And on the whiteboard, there's a bunch of his pony OCs. The IMP is getting hired by a mysterious benefactor that sends a helicopter after him. Blitz has no idea what a helicopter is because he was raised in a circus. And he complains that there's a door referencing Cherub where everyone just crashed through the walls instead. And oh no, his research gets blown out the window to the kids from Lululand. So the imps hop into the helicopter. For some reason they don't take Loona. Going through the building, well, I guess the elevator does have vehicle entrances. This is our second time going to Greed after Lululand. We even see the guy and the place. The rest of Greed is basically Chicago, full of pollution and gangsters. One of the money bags just says Mammon logo instead of having the actual Mammon face. But actually, it's not a mafia town. For real. Despite Blitz saying in Harvest Moon that both his employees were from RAF, he already knows that Moxxie was from Greed. Given that the episode is about Moxxie's past, shouldn't it have been like he said that he just lied and Blitz didn't know? And he just questions why is Moxxie all weird about Greed and all of a sudden? They land in that line from the first episode of Moxxie saying maybe a shitty dad, like some sort of mafia boss, is very relevant because his dad's a mafia boss. Being Moxxie's dad, he does look a lot like him appropriately, but they did go for the effort of giving him different skin tone and white splotches. But they also kind of copped out by his voice just being Richard Horvitz doing, gangsta. Also, despite imps being at the bottom of the totem pole, Crimson owns a big, successful crime family. But he thinks it's impressive that Blitz owns a successful-ish company. Moxxie calls his dad Sir, which is weird. But Blitz likes the attention. On Crimson's walls, we see several mountings of loan shark teeth, imp horns, succubus wings. But Crimson is an equal opportunity employer because we see several loan sharks and even a couple hybrids like this imp that's also a succubus.
One more.
What is up, party people?
This is Chaz, the loan shark. You either love him or hate him. I kinda like him. He's very similar to Adam from Has-Been Hotel. And he's got similar eyes to Stryker, so now we know that Stryker is a half-breed. A lot of people say he sounds like Edric from the Owl House. I checked, it's not the same voice actor, but they do sound a lot alike.
I got a big dick.
Mittens has gotten too full of herself. She keeps tattling on us when we cut class.
Chaz? Wait! What?
So apparently Chaz used to date both M and M. He's the ex that Millie was complaining about earlier. Somehow Chaz was in the Pride Ring and then went all the way down to Greed. Despite this fact, you can kind of just forget the fact that Chaz used to date Millie as well, because they don't really talk about it, they don't really interact that much after this, despite the fact that Moxxie gets a full backstory flashback with him. And despite being what the episode's named after, Chaz is also actually not that important, because he kind of plays second fiddle to Crimson in this episode. After a couple dick jokes, we go into flashback about how Moxxie and Chaz used to date and also work together. Chaz painted Moxxie like one of his French girls. Well, that's just mean, man. It's cold in there. But then on one mission, when they robbed a bank, instead of bootlegging or doing anything mafia people actually do, Moxxie got his foot stuck in a gate, and Chaz took the money and ran. Moxxie was thrown in jail because Crimson doesn't like him enough to bail him out. And Blitz is there, even though he wasn't there in an earlier shot. This is how the two meet, and unless Blitz is joking, I think he already has Loona at this point. Cut back to the present, and it turns out that Crimson wants to bring Chaz into the family, because he's really rich now. And it turns out that Moxxie still has some holdings in the company, which I guess Moxxie just didn't want anything to do with, and that's why he lives in a terrible apartment with his wife. Then after dinner, he has a word with his son, and it's actually a really well done, intense scene. It's clear that Crimson hates Moxxie, and they're having this whole wedding ceremony with him and Chaz, mostly for the money.
Come on, Mox. I even went through the trouble of making the house more to your kind's liking.
Then a bunch of dildos literally pop out of nowhere. Crimson's homophobia is actually written really well, calling Millie Moxxie's beard. It's very clear that Crimson doesn't know or really care the difference between gay and bisexual.
What do you think I'm into? What? This is the kind of shit gays like, right? Okay, first off, Dad, I'm bisexual. Yeah, gay.
He said some homophobic stuff in the past, and he says that was just the past while not apologizing. Kinda like my dad. The only thing really wrong with this scene is I feel this is the first time in all of Vivziepop's work where I actually feel the sex joke goes a little too much. I know a common criticism people have with Viv's work is she talks a lot about sex, even though every other adult animated or any adult media at all talks about it all the time. But I don't know, I think the dildos all over the place feel a little too much. I think the joke would have worked better if Crimson hit a button, and the room looks completely the same, except for now it's covered in rainbow stuff, poking fun at rainbow capitalism. But then we get another flashback to little kid Moxxie, and it's clear that he was close with his mom, who actually cared about him and helped him out and stuff. But Crimson hated this. So one day Crimson takes Moxxie out to the lake and makes him drown someone, as we see Moxxie's mom's shoe float up. If you pay close attention, it's not actually Moxxie's mom being drowned by him, but the scene does work if you notice or not. The implication of Crimson doing anything terrible to get what he wants. That night, M&M are separated, and Moxxie has to stay the night with Chaz in his crazy room full of photos of himself, leading to the song Chaz Time, where Chaz tries to throw that Riz at him. It's an okay song. Chaz vapes, because of course he does. But Chaz gets tossed out. He tries with Millie, but gets even less far, and tries round 3 with Blitz, which actually works. Don't tell Stolas. Moxxie, no last name, married to Millie, no last name. I wonder if he changed his name to no last name to avoid Crimson. So Moxxie checks his Facebook and looks through photos, like when him and Millie were dressed like furries and cherub. His case is, I don't cry, I sing. Liar. He looks through photos of him and Millie dating, and the two going to Phantom of the Opera, and eventually them getting married when Millie was in her long hair era. Who do you think topped? I'm gonna say Chaz, but it's also likely they just kind of swapped. Blitz has hooves while also a heel. Chaz's clothes are Mammon brand. Blitz goes to check Chaz's car. I think this might be an osmosis hula dancer. And it turns out Chaz is not actually rich. He is incredibly in debt, and he wants to marry into Moxxie's family to get money, with a South Park reference. But Chaz finds out what's going on and locks Blitz in his trunk. Then the next day, Moxxie actually sticks up for himself and says he doesn't want to do this with Chaz, but then he gets immediately tased. Millie figures out what's going on and takes out some loan sharks. The wedding's going ahead, so it's now up to Blitz to stop this. On the radio is Maman Channel, which plays Lululand, Station 69, which plays Vacay to Bonetown, Lusty Tunes, which plays the same thing, Station 666, Station Boobs, and Raph's #1 Fuck You Up hits, which is actually an outsourced song by the band until further notice, Crashing a Wedding. Canonically, Blitz has seen Shrek, which leads to Millie taking out a bunch of loan sharks. It's a really fun fight, which despite the fact I'm speeding it up for this video, it does go by in the original episode probably too fast to notice what's actually going on most of the time. It kind of is crazy intense and the perfect fight scene for the show. But at the end, Millie just lets Crimson go, which feels really weird.
This ass is mine. By the way.
And he gets told that Chaz is not actually rich, which feels also kind of weird that Crimson didn't look into Chaz at all, even though these days you have to fill out a form and show a proof of income for literally everything. I can't even get a damn credit card, and this guy's almost getting married to millions. They steal the helicopter. I'm guessing Moxxie eventually sold his stake in the company. Loona hasn't gotten up at all, and this is the first episode she hasn't made a single sound in. You know, if you think about it, they've all slept with the same person. That means they're, like, related or something. And Chaz gets whacked. Chadwick Thurman, is that a reference to Chadwick Boseman? This is a good episode that was almost great. Crimson's a good villain that the show actually does remember exists later. The episode's funny and the action's great. Chaz is a funny character that can get on some people's nerves. But so does a lot of people who act like Chaz. It's cool seeing more of Moxxie's past. It's cool that he stood up for himself, but then the episode shifts and he gets tased and immediately taken out and has to be saved by Millie, which really feels like this should have been his moment. Especially because the episode is meant to be about Moxxie lies and how that affects his relationships. The show came around with him apologizing to Millie and saving her or something, with him not being honest about his past. And also, Loona again doesn't make a single sound in this episode. What the hell? Overall, I'll give this episode a 7 out of 10. Make sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button if you're new.